such a killer sound, right? What is that sound? It's a sus chord for your solos. Let's check it out. Hey everybody, welcome to Lead Guitar Workshop. I always loved this note, right? It's so endearing. I would hear David Gilmour do it, Eddie Van Halen, even Dickey Betts and the Allman Brothers. They always hit this note, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. It is in a scale, it's in our pentatonics, it's in stuff like that, but we see this in a different way. It's actually part of a sus chord. Let's quickly talk about what's a sus chord. A sus chord stands for suspended, and what that means is you're taking away the major and minorness of the chord. If we look at a D chord is the easiest chord to kind of understand stuff on the guitar because it's very easy to look at what's happening. If we have our D major chord, the note on the 2nd fret, that's the note, that's making this major. And you can clearly see when you go to D minor, that note now goes to the 1st fret. That sound is the 3rd. The 3rd is the toggle switch in music, that's what I call. It's the only thing that makes something go major or minor, whether it's a scale or a chord. When you suspend a chord, you're moving that 3rd out of the way and you're pushing it either before or after, meaning it's moving to the 2nd note of the scale or the 4th note of the scale, the one on either side of it. So that's why you'll only see 2 types of sus chords, sus2 or sus4. And again, quickly looking at the D chord, let's just talk quickly about both. So when you have the 3rd finger here, the sus4 is always 1 fret higher than the major note. So in this case, the major 3rd is on the 2nd fret. So when you add your pinky on the 3rd fret, you're getting the sus chord. It's a sus4. If we do it with the open string, you're adding the 2nd note of the scale. And that's where the sus2 comes from. I want to talk about sus4s. So the easiest way to do this is look for your chord shapes that you know how to make between major and minor. So for instance, if I'm thinking D, and we know that sound right there as a chord, I can also hit it as a solo. And it works the same. These are called melodic suspensions. When you do them as a chord, that's a harmonic suspension. We're doing melodic suspensions. So if we see up here on the 5th fret, we have an A form bar chord of a D. I know as a guitar player, the note on the B string is the one that goes lower for minor and higher for major. So that's the note I want to raise. So I have all 3 here on the 7th fret. And I can move that note up a half step, adding that to a scale, because again, the notes in the chord are already in a pentatonic scale for, say, D major. And there's that sound. You hear it as a chord, and you can do it as a solo. It's so cool. So if you map out your different shapes, so for instance, we had a flat D shape here, there's a little staircase up here. And here's the note on the G string. And there it is there. Now an octave higher, I see a D chord way up here. We all know that, like when David Gilmour plays Uncomfortably Numb, he does that. He hits a D chord right up to that 3rd, and he bends it up a half step. And he actually does the same thing over an A chord. Gilmour gratuitously adds this note in. Eddie Van Halen, God bless the king, he does it a lot on his chords, but you'll also hear him hitting it in his solos. So once you can find your chord shapes, you can find your sus4s. So we had the flat one here. We had this little staircase from our E form bar chord up here. We can do an octave higher of our D chord up here. And eventually you can start seeing all the chord shapes and just start playing them kind of like you would an arpeggio, which they are, and hit into them that way. These sus chords make for such a sweet extra note that's actually very easy to look at. As long as you're looking for the chords, you can see where that note is. And so far, again, I'm mostly talking about sus 4s. They really have that endearing sound versus the sus 2s, which are also awesome and happen in chords all the time. But this particular sound I find is the sus 4. And again, you just have to find it with any chord shape you know. So even if we'll talk a little more in the future about chord inversions and how to really map them out for yourself. But there's even like this D chord down here. It's on the 4th, 2nd, and 3rd frets. Now the note that's the 3rd is the one on this D string here. It's also so sweet to bend to these notes. That's the best thing about them, right? So awesome. So such an easy thing to make a sus chord part of your solo sound. And again, Dickey Betts does this on Blue Sky. So you hear him playing E to A. And when he does that, he's adding a 6th note. Are these hexatonic scales? Technically, I guess you could think of it that way. I think, honestly, Dickey saw that as a little sus sound, and also, that 4th note of whatever key you're in will be the actual the root note of the 4 chord. So our major pentatonics don't have a 4 note in there. So when you add this note in, you're getting a root note for your 4 chord. So it's kind of a bonus if you're trying to play some changes as well. Lastly, when you see people like David Gilmour, when he bends up to 3rds, let's go back to D for a second. So I have a D right here on the 7th fret. And what I call the 1, 2, 3. You put your 3rd finger down on the 2nd note of the scale and you bend it up a whole step to the 3rd. It's really just kind of do, re, mi, right? But what David Gilmour loves to do, he does this on the time solo, Comfortably Numb, I think he does it as well. He pushes it to the 3rd and then pushes the bend a half step further up to the sus 4, like this. And to me, man, that is butter. Oh, that's so good. And you can hear me going to the 3rd, up to the 4, back to the 3rd, and then down to the root. And that is so sweet. I love that. All right, folks, I hope that was a simple little tip, a very nice thing to make you sound awesome. Little steps at a time, we get better, right? Thanks for checking out Lead Guitar Workshop. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. We'll see you guys around, and rock and roll.